Sure.
Alright, we're live.
Okay. Hey, welcome to Retro Reload, West Coast
folks,
edition.
you are live.
Yes.
We have some technical difficulties.
Yeah, one guy can't
Hear us.
he can't hear us, but we can hear him. So we got a few topics which I don't have all in front of me right now.
Okay, I got them on.
Okay.
First
Awesome.
topic is what companies or games, what do they do that make you rage? Our second topic is starter packs for newcomers. So pretty much our suggestions for newcomers on what to buy, what games to buy, what systems to buy. And our third topic will be game genres or famous gaming franchises we passed on or think are overrated. Those are our three topics tonight.
Okay. Who wants to go first about
I can go first on
Okay.
things that, well, I've said in past shows, but on the things that make me rage, it's like one of the biggest ones right now. It's exclusive DLCs for certain stores. Like, oh, if you buy from GameStop, you get this, but if you buy from Best Buy, you get this. And it's like, well, what if I want all of that? You know, I'm not gonna buy 4 different games, get 4 different DLCs.
Yeah.
It's true.
How about you, Tyler? What's one of the things that make you rage?
I don't really have anything that really makes me like rage necessarily. My issues are more with hardware problems that shouldn't be, like just quality, issues and things like that.
Okay.
I don't really play many newer games, so I mean I don't really know, I'm pretty easygoing. So.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Nikon? Anything for you?
I'm more vintage games that, I try to buy, doesn't really make me rage, it just irritates me, trying to go to these, like, some game stores and looking for, like, Sega Genesis games, and they got nothing but the crappy sports games available.
Or they look at you like, what's a Sega?
Oh, yeah, like, sometimes I go to these other places, like, what's a Sega Genesis? I'm like, really?
Are these like established game stores or just like random stores?
Some random stores, first time, I went to a GameStop, 'cause I never really went to one. Like, yeah, you got some Sega Genesis? No. Like,
Yeah, I always get disappointed when I hear that.
Yeah, I ran into that. Go ahead, sorry.
and they get confused, like, they ask me, do we have anything for Sega Genesis? Or like, oh, that's old. Why would we have anything for that?
Sometimes I go to the other places like, what's a Sega
Or,
Genesis?
do you have anything for the original Xbox 360 or Xbox One? No, I mean the original Xbox.
Some random stores, first time, I went to a GameStop,
Oh,
and
I hear
everyone was
feedback.
like, hey, you got some Sega Genesis? Like, no.
Yeah, I was disappointed when I hear that. I can hear it.
Alright, guys,
You're on a delay there, I see.
Like, oh, that's old. Why would we have anything for that?
It's like really going on. You have anything for the original Xbox?
I'm so confused.
Oh, I think the original Xbox.
Someone's on a delay there on the second computer, I see, but...
I'll be right back. My computer just froze.
Okay. I don't think it's a good Retro Reload episode about some technical glitches going on it.
Yeah, it's most of them, isn't it?
Yeah. Not too often, but we're starting to get the hang of things, but...
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of clueless game stores, I was out of town over the weekend, and I went to a store I've never been to before, and
okay.
They claim to have the biggest selection. And they have a lot of games. I mean, there was thousands of games. So I figured they probably knew what they were talking about. So I asked the kid. He was probably 13 or whatever, and I was like, hey, do you have any Philips CDI games? And he's like, huh? And I kind of expected that, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Okay, so that's very interesting.
Can you hear me?
Hang on, let me kill my mic.
It's like we're in the Twilight Zone.
There we go.
Okay.
Are you back?
I have no idea what the heck happened. I plugged in my headphones, right? These are like serious headphones, right? I plugged in my film audio working leveling headphones. There was a loud pop, and then I don't know if you guys could still hear me or what, but I have no sound whatsoever on my video workstation anymore.
Yeah,
I still heard you.
So yeah, sorry about that, but we're actually already live, so I hope your discussion has been interesting and edifying.
We talked about bunny rabbits and Twinkies. Why not combine the two?
Well, you know, I guess bunny rabbits and Twinkies. Sounds like you guys got it covered. I mean, I can just bail and you guys can continue.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as the discussion doesn't derail into like Twizzlers debates and stuff like that, or not Twizzlers, Tootsie Rolls, right?
Yeah.
Although now that I brought it up, right? Let's ask the whole panel: Tootsie Rolls or Red Vines?
Red Vines.
Tootsie Rolls by far.
Tootsie Rolls. I grew up watching, Bozo here in Chicago on WGN, and they always play the old Tootsie Roll commercials. You know, the one that had been played since the '60s.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this then. So Tootsie Rolls, or I'm sorry, Red Vines or Twizzlers?
Red Vines.
I have to go with Red Vines myself as well.
Yeah, Red Vines.
I'm not a big licorice fan, so either way, I don't really care.
Yeah, I would definitely consider Twizzlers to be the Kmart of that particular kind of candy. So.
Yeah, I think we left off on Tyler. He was discussing something.
I know, right?
About the 13-year-old didn't understand anything about the CDI.
Oh, that was my story. I was done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So look, I don't know. Like somebody's been posting on VG Collect that like you can find CDI controllers like they're like littering the street.
Yeah, dirt
like,
cheap, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm calling you out, whoever you are. Like, dude, you're sitting on a gold mine that you don't even know because on eBay these things are going like $100 for even the crappy spoon controller.
Yeah, I actually found a lot. I posted that. I found two of them, like one auction for two of them, for like $110. I was like, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when it's like drop on that one.
Yeah.
$60
I
a
didn't know they were all
pop.
that expensive.
So I mean, I got 3DO controllers cheaper than my CDI controller. I still just have the crappy spoon controller for CDI. I beat Who Shot Johnny Rock with the spoon controller. So take that, Mr. Nikon.
Wow.
Mr. This game is unbeatable. I beat it with a spoon.
Well, try playing on a Sega CD where like the video quality looks like you're looking through a sock.
Yes.
It's like you're watching scrambled porn.
Wow.
But you get better image on scrambled porn.
My goodness. Well, I guess we kind of led into it a bit. We do have 3 topics for today, and we kind of started off with a bit of a segue, and I apologize for that. But the 3 topics that we had are pretty interesting, I think. And we'll see. I think all my energy is spent with me trying to get my computer back up and running. But I'm curious for you guys, like, what makes you rage? And I'm going to extend this a little bit from the initial inquiry. Initially, it was like, what do games do that make you rage? But I'm going to open it up to what do game companies do, game communities, like what in general, gaming related, just sets you off? And anybody can kick in at first.
We discussed a little bit of it when you were gone, but so it's your turn. I got a couple more after you're done.
All right. I'm throwing it out there, so go ahead and throw down your couple.
Okay, here's another one is mine. I mentioned before in an old episode, changing the whole format of an established franchise, or just pissing off the fans by completely changing it by trying to get new fans.
Oh, you mean like when they tried to turn Infamous 2 into an Uncharted ripoff?
To play Infamous 2, but yes, if that's the case, yeah.
Yeah, they did some really weird, crazy... They had this really good, gritty character going on in the first game, and they decided that they were going to get the... I think it was the same voice actor that did Drake's Fortune, the Uncharted series. And I don't have an issue with that actor. I think he's a fine actor and all that other stuff, but with his voice came a certain character, and not for nothing, I invested a lot of hours in the first game getting to like the original character. So I was among the many fans that were kind of, when I saw the E3 demo of what Infamous 2 was originally envisioned to be, I was like, WTF. So, because the character that they were showing was not Cole McGrath, but they called him Cole McGrath, and they were acting as if he'd always been that way. They did hear the fans, though. Sucker Punch heard the fans, thankfully, and they did some retooling of the character skin and that kind of stuff. The voice actor stayed. I don't know the logistics behind scenes of what went on there, but so we got the same voice actor, which was kind of, again, no issue with the actor, just he wasn't the character that I was expecting. But they did go back and at least redress, so the character looked the way that folks expected him to look. So sometimes your rage, if you properly channel it, in this case people went to the forums on Sucker Punch's website and they said, hey, look, this is what we don't like, this is why we don't like it, and they gave a lot of really good input. So even though artistically they wanted to go in this completely other direction with Cole, they actually, that was the case where I thought they did a good job of listening to their fans and going, they don't like what we've done. Art be damned, let's go back and give them, you know, what they want. My goodness, what was that, Tyler?
That was my chair. Sorry. Trying to get a little more comfortable.
I was like, he's like, you're full of shit, Dash.
They didn't change it because of you, know.
Yeah. He's like, they changed because I threatened to move my chair in their vicinity.
All right, anybody else have anything that companies or games do that make you rage?
Sort of. Yeah.
All right, let's hear
Go
it.
ahead.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Me? Okay. I feel like with the Sony, I mean, I haven't owned a Sony console since the PS2, so I don't have a horse in this race necessarily. But with all the network hackings and all the other stuff, you know, it's just like, how do they not learn their lesson? I mean, I know it's not really their fault, but like, come on, you know.
Step up your game, because I'm a Sony fanboy, but I agree. Sony,
Yeah.
step up your game when it comes to security. That's the reason I don't use my credit card on the servers anymore.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, usually, and I promise I'm not just being devil's advocate here, but, you know, before, in various capacities, I've worked in the tech industry, both as software engineer, as an operations guy, and even as a security guy for a while. Behind the scenes, not the guy carrying a gun, although that would have been wicked cool. You will code that function this way, or I will shoot you. I wish I could do that. Anyway, security is hard, and I think the first time, right, and this gets into a bit of something that makes me rage. I hate when, just like you hate, Red, when they take an existing franchise and then they change it all around. Either they change the character, or they change the story, or the whatever. I hate when a company takes a product, they sell it, market it, and give it to you as one thing, and then they turn around and they respin it through firmware updates and changing end-user license agreements and everything into a totally different product. When I bought the PS3, I bought it because it was a really awesome Blu-ray player, and I could learn how to do cell programming on it through the Yellow Dog Linux distribution, and I could play games maybe if they came out with games that I wanted, which eventually they did. The Blu-ray player pretty much delivered. It's continued to be the best Blu-ray player money can buy, even 10 years later. Cell processing, they ripped that away from me 3 months after I bought the console. Right? They killed Linux, and they didn't just kill it as in like, okay, newer consoles don't have it, whatever, that's fine, right? But you had to do, it was a forced update. You either had to accept the update to continue watching Blu-ray movies and playing video games, or you had to give up Blu-ray movies and video games to keep Linux on your box. That was complete bullshit. That was not right at all. And Sony's stance at the time was, we're doing it because of security. Well, guess what? Sony, you got friggin' pwned exactly 2.5 months after you ripped Linux away from those of us that legally paid for the console.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
There was not a successful exploit against Sony that allowed unlicensed code to run until 2.5 months after they pulled Linux support. I think it was a direct attack on them by the people that they pissed off because they pulled a feature away from them.
Yeah, don't piss off hackers.
Don't piss off hackers. If you give them Linux, let them have Linux, right? I didn't take part in it because I wasn't really that. I was pissed off. I called up customer service and I went -V on them for about an hour and a half. But I wasn't passionate about it to like hack their servers or anything. But the point is, right, Sony especially is a company that, unlike Sucker Punch, really doesn't listen to its fans. They will do whatever the hell they want if they think that it's going to either generate or protect a revenue stream for them. And it's blatant and it's obvious. And so you either buy their products knowing that and deal with it, like I've done, or you just don't buy into their products. And a lot of people choose not to buy into their products, but unfortunately even more people choose to buy their products to mess with Sony. And I think this is where it gets to the part where I'm kind of defending them. I think initially the first hack was them being partially naive, right? You pissed off a whole bunch of hackers by taking away the thing that made it so that there was no real reason to hack the PS3. If you want to run Homebrew and you want to run Linux and you want to stay legit, you just like to tinker, they gave it to you. But now you take it away, and now suddenly it's the restricted, ooh, you can't touch this, ooh, you can't... You just invited them to bust your system wide open. And oh, by the way, the folks already had a 3-year head start where they had Linux. Even the dog agrees with me. So, but now I think, like, if you look at what happened at Christmas, I think...
Yeah, that was the first hack. There was the second one you're talking about now, right?
Yeah, those were the first hacks. So the second hack during Christmas, right, that was, you know, I think, like, the first time they were caught pants down. I think they thought, we had a protected system, nobody's going to break into the system. I really think that they trusted their closed system too much. They thought, the PS3 is so secure, we don't need to worry about the network behind it because nobody's going to break a box. Problem was, once breaking a box became trivial, like any script kiddie could just buy a USB thumb drive, plug it in, and, you know, they're connecting to dev servers and buying fake currency and all this other stuff. That was mistake number one. They were naive and they were lax in their security. But I think the Christmas thing was just now they're a target. People already hate them for better or for worse. They've got to have people working 24/7 round the clock. There were probably people 24/7 round the clock even 2 days leading up to Christmas because they expected the hack was going to happen. I think they had their A game, but I think it just wasn't good enough. I mean, how do you, even a data center full of ops people can't fend off, you know, a planet of hackers that just want to own it?
That's true.
We have a bunch of computers hacking your system and jack computers trying to hack in. You can't stop that.
Right. So I think the first one was kind of they asked for it. Still doesn't justify what was done. It's illegal, bad, blah, 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 don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
But the second time, I think it was just I don't know that these guys can ever be prepared enough to where if somebody just wants to totally own them, they're going to do it.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that's what I was getting at. I think it's like they didn't learn their lesson the first time. You know, because, yeah, I mean, you're right, it can happen to anybody. I mean, you know. But the second time, it was like, all right, figure it out, you know?
Yeah, I think the only thing that they can really do at this point, and actually, a while ago, I don't think it was published or anything, but I wrote a white paper to the effect of it. There's different ways that you can try to disincentivize hackers, right? One of them is through punishments and crazy laws and all kinds of restrictions and everything. But at the end of the day, all you end up really doing is pissing off legit customers, by and large. The other way to disincentivize them is to just make it so that the reward isn't worth the risk.
Yeah.
Right? And by reward not being worth the risk, I just mean, like, if you're providing somebody with a reasonably priced, reasonably capable product that does most of what you'd want it to do out of the box, what is there to gain by hacking it?
Yeah, there's no point.
Right? So, and I think Sony still doesn't kind of get that. I think they still believe that they can like throw in another firewall and have a couple more ops guys on call, and that'll handle it. Hopefully Christmas kind of showed them, look, guys, you got to start treating your customer base better. You can't have your fan base turn into a rage base, right? Because love can turn to hate pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
So brick a couple consoles and then see how many people you have raging Sony Castle, right?
Yeah, I mean, but there's other, so that's Sony, then you have Microsoft with all of, when the Xbox One was announced,
I remember watching that one, horrified.
Yeah, everything they said, everybody was like, wait, what? Really?
Yeah, I thought they were joking.
And, yeah, I mean, no use games, always online. I mean, everything that you don't want is what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Problem is, and then they said, oh, well, never mind, we're just kidding, So we got the Xbox One. Problem is that now everybody knows what their end game is.
Oh, yeah.
So the next console, I would be surprised if it's not gonna have all that stuff.
Yeah, and the dirty little secret,
again.
right, is Sony had the same exact plan. Sony was almost going to give the same exact pitch until Microsoft went first, and then you got a whole bunch of people frantically scribbling on their napkins, don't say crap about this, don't say this, see if the devs put a stop on this feature. I think they were like frantically, going nuts. And on the one hand, like the optimist in me would want to say, okay, cool, this is actually proof that they know their fan base and they know their customer base and everything. But I would argue personally, I think it was just them doing what they did when they pulled Linux. It was them protecting their new revenue stream.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They saw that there was money to be lost by, given the same bells and whistles that Microsoft touted, and they just protected themselves. So I don't think that was them really listening to the gamers so much as them, seeing Microsoft fail so bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was definitely. It's my opinion. It was like they saw what happened. They're like, oh hell, we don't want that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's what kind of rages me, really, is when companies don't really listen or don't really respect, the customers. Because at the end of the day, if your customers aren't buying your product, or they're not talking about how great and awesome your product is, there's really great, awesome things to talk about with the PS3. Don't give us so much bad stuff to talk about too.
Yeah.
You want to hear more people talking about really awesome games and really cool features in the new firmware. You don't want to see them rage posting about the console no longer doing basic functions that they originally bought it for.
Yeah.
It seems like common sense, but it's not always so common, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
So, Mr. Nikon, what did you rage about? Did I miss it?
Just going to game shops, or GameStop. They don't know what I'm asking for. Some things. That's one thing I talked about earlier. Like for some, I went to a GameStop, asked if they had any Sega Genesis stuff, and they're like, "What?" They're all confused about that. So.
Were they like a retro game shop, or was this like you walked into GameStop yesterday and asked them for Sega Genesis?
This was GameStop like a few years ago, like first time going into one. So.
Ah, okay.
There's actually a retro game shop here in Utah that they do not take any Sega products in trade because they say that they're worthless.
Wow.
I found that kind of funny. Yeah, they're like, no. Because I went in there, I was like, give me Sega games? Nope. We don't take them, we don't sell them. Okay.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
I have my opinions about the Sega Genesis. That said, I own 3 versions of the console and about 80 games. So.
Yeah, there was one game store here. They had a sealed in the box Sega 32X Spider-Man Web of Fire, completely sealed mint, and they're asking like $700 for it.
Oh wow. I was gonna say, I imagine there's a lot of unopened 32X games out there.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
They're probably as cheap and plentiful as CDI controllers.
You're probably right.
Those are like $1 a piece. I understand.
Oh yeah.
But whoever you are on VG Collect, follow up. Make
Although
that there's like they're raining down from the sky like manna from heaven, and then you disappear and you won't answer where they are.
Well, somebody said in the thread they were in Holland. I don't
That
know.
really helps me out here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I actually got on the Holland eBay website. I can't speak whatever it is they're speaking. I'm like trying to, and they were still, what I could see was it looked like about the same price. So I don't know where these controllers are. Although there was something I found interesting. There was at one point like a homemade adapter.
Mm-hmm.
So you could plug in like a Sega Genesis controller, and it would convert it to a CDI. Problem is they stopped making them about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty interesting, and it brings us to a really interesting segue too. The segue basically of the other topic that we had regarding if somebody is just starting a collection, right? Or actually, I think the way it was phrased, but we don't have to stick to the exact phrasing, was if somebody wanted to get into retro gaming, what would be your recommended first purchases? So.
Probably an NES, original Nintendo, of course. That'd be the first system I would go for.
Yeah, I agree. NES would be the first one you should go for. Get the original Mario, Duck Hunt, the gun, and the old TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, an old school TV. And if you're going to go an old school TV, folks, do not go onto eBay and find some old boat of a TV and then pay ridiculous shipping for it. Be smarter than that. Go to a Goodwill, go to a thrift store. You can find these old school TVs in perfectly working order for like $10.
They're free on Craigslist.
Or Craigslist.
Yeah, Craigslist, Free Cycle. If you guys know what Free Cycle is, freecycle.org. People give away stuff like that all the time. If you pay more than $20 for a CRT television, then that's money that you could have spent buying like 18 CDI controllers. From what I heard.
The light guns do not work on modern TVs if you don't know this. I found out the hard way. I'm just telling the people, the light guns don't work on modern TVs.
That is true, except for
the CDI, which you talk about last time I was here.
Actually,
I see you have one too. Yeah, back there.
I do.
I might have to buy something.
Gun, I can actually take it out of the box if you guys want to see it.
Yeah, let's see it.
Let me. By the way, it's not stuck on just showing me, is it? It's cycling through all of us, right?
No, it's cycling.
I'm going to check the YouTube page.
Okay.
Sorry about sirens.
So what's really cool is the CDI light gun, right, actually comes with an IR sensor box, and the gun is actually a camera. Does this remind you of anything?
That's cool.
Something I'd really love to figure out sometime, and if we could get a guest that could actually shed some light on it, it'd be amazing. I wonder if that isn't the technology that inspired Nintendo with the Wii remote. Because remember, before Wii, before GameCube and all that other stuff, there was a time when Nintendo and Philips were working together on a CD-ROM unit. Shortly after the CDI came out, when the whole Nintendo CD-ROM thing kind of fell apart, Philips made their own CDI console. So I kind of wonder if there was some kind of, when they're doing their patent and IP sharing and all that other stuff, I wonder if that was one of the designs that was kind of common to both of them, because it seems a little bit interesting that that gun operates exactly the same way as the Wii remotes. And because of that, you can use it on every television.
Does it require the port?
The infrared?
Yeah.
It's actually one continuous wire. So the wire comes out of the gun and goes into the IR, and then you hook the IR into the CDI. But what's cool is, unlike the Wii, you can actually put the IR thing to the side or top or bottom of the television. It's not just top-bottom like the Wii.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, it is pretty cool. That said, I will give it to Mr. Nikon. I cannot beat Who Shot Johnny Rock with the gun. What? I can't beat it with the gun, but I can shoot people with a spoon like it's nobody's business. So,
It's just beat that game.
so I guess in terms of, I'm glad that you guys went in the direction that you went with your recommendations of the equipment and stuff. My recommendation is actually, I went the direction that you guys went. If you're getting into collecting now, I think it's pretty hard. The prices are getting pretty high. Even for normal common stuff, it's getting like pretty crazy. But if you're getting into retro gaming just to play, I think it's a fantastic time. It's probably the best time that there's ever been, because there's just so many different ways to play a lot of these old classic games. So a lot of you guys were recommending the Nintendo Entertainment System. I wholeheartedly endorse that recommendation, but I would say look into getting into it in clone format. This is the Retro Duo Portable. It is a clone system that plays Super Nintendo out of the box. So you can just take your SNES game and pop it right on in.
That's actually cool. I need to get that.
You can actually, it comes with the RetroPort adapter, which actually you can play Nintendo games with.
A little bit lower. Oh, there you go.
A little lower?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which. Is it showing this
It's showing
screen?
both.
Is it showing? I don't know which one of me is actually showing up.
I see the one that you're speaking on with the microphone on.
Okay. You see the one where my head is almost?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so to play Nintendo ones, you can buy, they call it the RetroGen adapter. It does not come with Sonic 3. But you can buy a RetroGen adapter, and you can actually plug it in, and you can play Genesis games.
We should link those to the YouTube page at the end of the show.
I'll definitely link them. There's a new product, too, that they recently came out with that's a Game Boy Advance adapter that will let you play Game Boy Advance games on this. And, oh, by the way, yes, the Super Game Boy does work with this. So you can play Game Boy and Super Game Boy games, just not Game Boy Color, on this. So it's pretty darn versatile. This, with the RetroGen adapter, will run you about, I think, $60, $70. It also has an AV port, so you can plug it into your television, and it has a controller port within it. It comes with an adapter that lets you hook in 2 Super Nintendo controllers. So you can actually take it to a friend's house, plug it in the TV, plug in 2 controllers, and play like Mortal Kombat or something. Really cool. Gun games don't work on this, unfortunately. So if you want to get your Duck Hunt on, this ain't the box to do it. This ain't the machine to do it.
Gotta get the old TV.
You gotta get the whole. I even tried. I tried hooking this into my 37-inch ProScan TV, CRT, and I used the Super Nintendo adapter with the Enforcer for the SNES. Tried to play Lethal Enforcers. Did not work. So, but what does work on this device is the Everdrive, the Everdrive N8, which is for the Nintendo, the SD to SNES, which is for Super Nintendo. The Mega Everdrive does not work with this at all. Don't bother trying it. It doesn't work. And there's one other one that I tested actually just before the show. No, I think that's it, actually. That's it. So you can look up on your own independently what the heck an Everdrive is, why it matters, whether or not it works, and all the nifty, wonderful things you can do with it. Please only do legal things with it. Thank you. But the other thing that's really cool, though, and another reason why it's a great time to collect, I think, is that I've become a fan of getting compilations of games. So some real great compilations that everybody should have, I think, is Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection for the PS3.
Yep.
This you can usually find. The most I've seen it for is like $20. But it's got basically every Sonic game ever released on Genesis. It's got every Streets of Rage. It's got every Golden Axe, including the previously unreleased Golden Axe 3 prototype. It's got Golden Axe Warrior for the Sega Master System. It's got all the Phantasy Star games for Sega Master System and Sega Genesis. It's just a really great compilation. That's only a small handful of the games that are actually on this that I've mentioned. So if it's in your Sega Genesis wish list, chances are it's on this compilation. Really great, and the emulation is spot on. Lots of good filters, save states. They really did this one right.
Is that available on the 360 as well? I think I've seen it.
It might be. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I will look right now.
I do know it's available for the PlayStation 3. If you've got a PlayStation 2 and you want to get your Mega Man on, I think that's the way to do it. There's 2 collections for the PlayStation 2. One of them is the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which is all the games, all the way up to
8, I believe.
I think it goes up to 8. It also has a couple of previously unreleased, like some arcade games that were only released in Japan, which is a nice, nifty bonus. If you want to get your Mega Man X on, they also have a Mega Man X collection. And this includes, one of the additional games is actually an arcade racer game that's kind of like Mario Kart with Mega Man characters. So that's pretty cool. And again, the emulation is pretty good, save states, all that stuff.
Yes, it's for Xbox 360, the Ultimate
It is?
Genesis
Okay.
Collection.
Sweet.
I think I thought I'd seen it. The Mega Man collection is actually on GameCube as well, I believe. I think. I don't know.
Well,
I should know.
Kirby collection. This one's expensive. This one will cost you $50. But this has all the Kirbys that came out for Game Boy, all the Kirbys that came out for Super Nintendo, and the ones that came out for N64 as well. So it's kind of like an anthology. Really, really good collection. That was basically my suggestions. The only other thing, too, I guess, from a console perspective, would be the Game Boy Advance Sp. What's really cool about it is the built-in backward compatibility from everything from original Game Boy all the way up to Game Boy Advance. So you can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Super Game Boy, and Game Boy Advance. It opens up a huge library of 8-bit retro games. It's pretty darn good, and the cool thing is that Game Boy games generally are dirt cheap because for whatever reason not a lot of people collect for it. So games that you wouldn't normally be able to find or would be really expensive, for example, Mighty Final Fight. You guys know what that currently goes for on eBay?
No.
$120. Cart only.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding. If you get Capcom Mini Mix,
Wow.
you will get 3 games in one. It's Strider, it's Bionic Commando, and it's Mighty Final Fight on one cartridge. I bought it new in box for $10 last month.
Read that.
Can't beat that with a stick. So look for the compilations, folks. People always overlook those, but they're a great way to get into the games if you don't just care about lining the shelf.
I got also 2 more recommendations. Atari 2600 with Pitfall and Adventure. You can't go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Actually, you're dead on with that. You reminded me of one last thing. On the back of that 2600 recommendation, which I wholeheartedly agree with, get yourself a Harmony card. These things are really awesome. Basically, you can run games off of SD, and what's really cool is the Atari has, I think, the largest and most active homebrew community I have seen for any retro console. If you go to Atari Age, grab yourself a Harmony cart, and you will find tons and tons of free public domain and just really great homebrew, especially Panky the Panda. Look up Panky the Panda. That's probably the closest thing you're going to find to Mario Brothers on a side-scrolling platformer on the Atari, and it was executed beautifully. Great graphics, great sound. It's the best game that never actually got released in a cartridge form. Most homebrew goes to cartridge eventually. Fans do it, and Atari Age does it. Panky the Panda, for whatever reason, never went to cartridge, but it's a great game.
Also E.T., so you can see how bad it got back in the 80s.
E.T., if you get the Harmony cart, you can actually, somebody went through and fixed all the people's major gripes with E.T.
The entire game, pretty much.
E.T.'s not that bad. Come on.
It's not that bad. It really...
I thought it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was a more... The reason I say it's not that bad is because I also played Raiders of the Lost Ark. Anybody else here play that?
Yes.
Raiders of the Lost Ark was a ridiculously brutal game. Like, E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark shared one thing. If you didn't get the game with the manual, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
If you got the game with the manual, you're only probably screwed.
Yeah, because you have to use the Player 2 controller.
Yeah,
for
from
Raiders of the Lost
Raiders. Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody knows that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, both great games, but you have to have the manual and you have to know some stuff in order to really.
Look up on YouTube nowadays.
Yeah, with YouTube, there's no excuse why folks can't pick up the game and learn about it. I think to me it's kind of neat to see how much they packed into that game, E.T., with how little time they had to develop it.
I was like 3 months, something like that. I remember right. It wasn't very much time.
Yeah, I think so. It wasn't a lot. It was definitely a race to get it out. I think the only game that had as tight of a schedule that we're aware of is Doom for the 3DO.
Really?
Yeah. So I think guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 3DO that is widely considered to have the worst Doom port of all time.
I'm not sure because I don't really play too many Doom games. I'm looking right now.
It's either 3DO or CDI. But recently, whichever one it is, recently the developer of that actually released the source code along with a blog about like the Trail of Tears that was involved in trying to get that game to make its date. It's actually a miracle that the game actually got released at all.
Yeah, it looks like it was 3DO.
3DO?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there was some miscommunication with how far along the port was and just how much of the core engine would need to be rewritten from scratch in order to run on the 3DO. And so they were given a timeline as if all they had to do was, like recompile the existing source and add a couple more weapons. And basically they had to like port the entire game engine from scratch. So
That's a big difference right there.
yeah. Now, what was really cool, though, is that they actually, as bad as the game is, that one's widely regarded as having the best rendition of the Doom soundtrack of any of the Doom ports.
Really?
Because the developer did not have time to rewrite the MIDI synthesizer engine to run on 3DO, so instead she convinced the producers of the company that she worked for, like, hey, guys, we could actually just get a band I know to do covers of the original music in our studio and do it as CD audio that we just stream for cheaper and quicker than it would cost to have me port the driver. And so that's what they did, and that's why the music is so fantastic for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
So it's pretty cool. I'll link to the blog after the episode is done.
Okay.
So that covers why we rage. That covers what would we recommend to folks that are just jumping into collecting. Give you a lot of stuff to go and blow your next paycheck on. We had one more topic. Did you guys cover it before I came in, or no?
Not yet.
Okay.
I forgot what it was.
Game dramas, famous gaming franchises we passed on or think are overrated. Now this is where we're going to get some pissed off people.
All right. I'm going to let you go first on that one because I think, Red, that was your idea.
One of the big ones, and I already know I'm going to get heat for this, is fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, all those. I cannot get into it at all. Like, to me, it's all button mashing. Yes, I know, use techniques, but for me, it's all button mashing. That's all it is really to me. And also Resident Evil, which Dash won't like, but yes, I'm not a big fan of Resident Evil.
It depends, right? I've fallen out of love with the newer releases, but the older ones I'm pretty...
Well, the older ones I hated because of controls, but we discussed that last week.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
Alright. And one more are the games like Uncharted or God of War, which kind of like a puzzle adventure. I'm
Okay.
not clever or smart enough to deal with these puzzles. I was like, just let me kill stuff. I want to sit here and figure out a puzzle.
So are you a fan of Doom then? You like Doom?
It's okay. I played the first one. That's about it.
Well then, dude, come on, you're being inconsistent. You're saying just let you kill stuff, but if we just hand you a chainsaw and say go, you don't like that either.
I mean, I played the first one. I never give the other ones a chance yet. I probably should.
I'm just breaking your balls.
I know. My computer just froze again. I'll be right back.
While he's gone, Mr. Nikon, are there any franchises that you've passed up or things that you think are overrated?
I've never really gotten into the Final Fantasy games. I've never. That's so I want to get into them, and also the fighting game genre. I never really played many of them when I was younger. I'm just starting to get into them. So yeah, it's. I don't know. They made Mortal Kombat about half-mile from where I grew up, so I don't know why I never really got into fighting games.
Oh, you also never got into Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Tyler, what about you? Is Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil in your passed up list?
No, I liked Mortal Kombat to a point. Up until about the third one in the arcades. I was never like really into it, but I could play it,
Yeah.
I was a big Street Fighter fan. I wasn't any good at it, but I liked it. In the arcades again. But yeah, that's other than that, I don't really do fighting games either.
How about Final Fantasy?
I own the first two, and I've played them and kind of liked them, but other than that, I haven't played any of those either. So. I'm
gonna get my butt kicked by the Final Fantasy fans out there, but hopefully the Mortal Kombat fans will come to my aid afterwards. I own every Final Fantasy game made. I've only played and finished Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy 1. So I'm like you. I want to get into I want to get into them, Mr. Nikon. But when I look at the time investment that'll be required, I can't do it. Sometimes I'll start into the game, and I'll get a pretty decent way into it, and then I just end up. I talked about this before with Final Fantasy IX. I actually love that game better than 7. I think 7 is kind of overrated. It's a great game, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of interesting spin-offs with the a bunch of different games in the franchise. Crisis Core was a pretty cool prequel that I only played halfway through. But for the only Final Fantasy game that I beat, yeah, it was great. But I mean, I think Final Fantasy IX did what Final Fantasy VII did, but better in like every possible way. And for whatever reason, it just didn't have the following that Final Fantasy VII had. I think it certainly had a lot more charm to the characters with the whole, even the cover. You look at the cover, and it's got that whole like Wizard of Oz kind of, vibe going for it. But yeah, I've almost beaten the game twice. I've gotten about halfway, 75% of the way through, and then put it down because life got in the way, and I just don't have it in me to plow through it again and relearn the story. But I like the game. I like the series. So every time a new one comes out that's not an MMO, I pick it up. I'm going to pick up, I think it's 15 is the next one that's not an MMO. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I'm not a Final Fantasy either.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going to pick up that next one, but not, and I guess generally
I'll play it.
I picked up Wild Arms 1 and 2 this weekend because Sony had them on sale for like $1. But I'll probably never play them. And then there's a handful of other games that I haven't really played. But Mortal Kombat, I'm not like super obsessed with it, but I played the hell out of it when it came out on Sega Genesis. I'd play it now and then when it was in the arcades and I had some quarters. We already went over different tactics we had for getting quarters in a previous episode. Nikon's like, hey, I need to call my mom. I'm sick.
They get a couple quarters.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's called being a con artist.
At least it's small time.
Creative.
But But he's from Chicago, so I mean, it's probably, you know, here we call it being a con artist. Chicago, they call it like everyday life.
Every day.
Come on,
Corruption in politics, it's normal here, you know? It's expected.
Hey, you're practicing to be a politician, right? I'm telling you I want the money for one thing, but I'm going to use it for another thing.
So funny, every time I hear cities to get all crazy with some corrupt politician here in Chicago, like, yeah, so?
That's happened here
That's
twice.
not normal?
Right. Right. So Mortal Kombat, one of the things I noticed, I bought that also this weekend. Sony had if you have a PS3, something I think that Sony does well is they do have lots of sales from time to time on their digital games in the PlayStation Network. And the deals can be pretty crazy. Like, for example, I got Wild Arms 1 and 2. I got Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection, which includes 1, 2, and 3 the arcade games. And what was the other one? I got like 1 or 2 other games. I don't remember which ones they were, but all told, it was like $6.
Nice.
And each one of these were like AAA, like, you know, AAA titles, except for, oddly enough, Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection. That got horrible reviews when it came out 4 years ago. And I think what it was is when it first came out, it was very buggy, very laggy, had a lot of issues. The first thing that happened, and this kind of makes me rage, but with Mortal Kombat it wasn't terribly bad. I bought the game, I downloaded it. Stupid me, I thought I could click on the icon and start playing. No. I could sit there and wait for the next series of 5 updates to download and install. Then I could play an hour later. So that kind of upsets me. When I think I'm going to play a game and really I just end up babysitting a PlayStation 3 until it's time to shut it off and go to bed. Right? But anyway, this wasn't too bad. It only took a few minutes to download the updates. And I saw a lot of people like raging online about these games being difficult. I think they missed in the title where it was the arcade collection, not the console collection. The arcade games are built to suck quarters out of you like a Hoover vacuum. So if you didn't expect it to be ridiculously hard, I'm sorry. That's the way arcade games were. And the other thing that surprised me is, so I'm braced for like this game, and instead I beat Mortal Kombat 1 within like 10 minutes, like 3 or 4 times. And it was mostly on the endurance matches. I died like twice on the endurance match, and I think like 3 times. And then Mortal Kombat 3, I beat, I think, only dying like 3 times. And I don't consider myself a great Mortal Kombat player by any means. But one of the things I did notice was, I think the people that are having the difficulty see it as a spam fest, and I used to too. One of the things I tried to do this time, which I'd never done before, is Mortal Kombat 1. It really didn't matter, right? You can pretty much beat up the API or beat up the AI, and it's pretty easy. Mortal Kombat 3, though, each character has their own patterns and has their own things, and I picked up on that pretty quickly. And I noticed that when I just spent like 1 round, the first round just getting my ass handed to me by just, you know, try a jump kick, see what happens. Try a projectile, see what happens. Take a few steps forward, see what happens. Now what I noticed is if you fight Jade, for example, in Mortal Kombat 3, which the first like 2 fights, I got my ass handed to me. I just totally got destroyed. That's when I started really observing what is the computer character doing, and is there a way to really compete with it. And it turns out there is, and that's how I ended up beating the whole rest of the game, only dying like 1 or 2 more times. It's just first round, try a couple things, see what their patterns are. With Jade, don't attempt any projectiles, no matter what character you are. She's just going to do this move where she insta-flashes through. She has this invincibility move where she can rush through your projectile attack and go right into a combo and kick your ass. She'll do that every single time the second you do a projectile move. So just don't bother with projectiles with her. Next thing is, if you do any jump attacks with her, same thing. She's either just going to jump straight into a throw or jump kick you, and then she's going to do her flash attack and go right into a combo and you're dead. Jade, interestingly enough, one of the hardest characters to fight, Here's how you beat her. Duck and just stay there. Eventually, she'll get impatient. She'll rush you but miss because you're ducking, and you just uppercut her while she's like stuck in her attack mode. The other thing is sometimes she'll try to jump attack you, and again, you just uppercut her. So all I did was duck and uppercut, and I got double flawless on Jade in the arcade.
Nice.
Interesting.
I gotta try then next time I go to Galloping Ghost.
Yeah, another thing too to give a try, Mr. Nikon, is with if you're fighting against Liu Kang. Liu Kang, I noticed similar thing. If you try to projectile him, he's just going to projectile you, and unless you have a projectile that cancels out his, you're just going to trade blows until you're going to die before him usually, because you'll make a mistake before he does. The other thing is jump kick. He'll just instantly either jump and do his projectile fireball, or he'll go into like his kick or something, and you're just like cremated. The best thing to do is just stand there, duck if you have to, or block, but stand there and like duck, and then when he starts to get into proximity with you, leg sweeps and high kicks. Not like spamming them, but if you alternate, you kind of like randomize between like medium kicks, high kicks, and like sweeps. He can't accommodate that for some reason, and you'll just end up kicking the living crap out of him. So
I was trying to hammer with that.
So give those a try and see if it works in general, or maybe it only works. Maybe they've done AI tweaks because so many people complained, but I did notice if I just went into it as a button-mashing spam fest, I was getting my ass handed to me. But I noticed that if I just took one round, each character seemed to have patterns that were super apparent, and then I just played to the patterns. It was almost like fighting like a real person, right? Because you're going to get those people who are super spammy, or they like in Street Fighter. Same thing, right, Tyler? You get somebody that kicks 10 and just goes into fireballs like nonstop. There's ways to combat that. So, but if they're always changing it up, you know. So the trick is every character in Mortal Kombat, at least 3, possibly 2. I didn't go back and try 2 yet, but everyone in 3 definitely has their strengths and their weaknesses. You just got to take a round to figure it out.
Okay. Definitely next time I go to the arcade, I gotta try that out.
Yeah, I have like a love-hate relationship with modern fighters, mainly because of what you said. Red, you know, the biggest problem I have with like Tekken and Dead or Alive and all that stuff, they've made the fighting so darn complex with counters and, you know, throws versus counters and what cancels what, and down to like they want you like I've seen there's modes where you can have it tell you like what frame the character is on, so that you know if they're in like frame 2 of the uppercut, then the following 4 moves can be used. It's like, dude, who like can actually process the gameplay in real time like that? That's kind of insane.
It's like in Call of Duty, I was shooting at you, duck right at this moment.
Right. I mean, it's like as if memorizing the combos and memorizing the special moves wasn't hard enough. Now I have to memorize like individual frames of animation per character. Dude, I might as well just play Final Fantasy if I'm going to invest that much in it. And at least then I get a cool storyline, you know?
I'm trying to figure out what that one game I played, that one fighting game I played, the Mega Man Power Battle.
Yeah, I played that one. That one's on one of the collections, I think.
Yeah, I actually played the arcade machine they have at the this local arcade, Galloping Ghost, which is a fun game to play.
Was it American, or was that like, did they import it?
I think they imported it. I don't know where they got it from. They just pull games out of like everywhere. They've got 2 of the they've got that Sega Time Traveler game, that hologram game.
Yeah.
And they just picked up another one of those Sega hologram games last time I was there.
For any of our viewers we have that are in Chicago, right? I think, like, one of them. I think you're the viewer in Chicago. But if any other ones come along, you should put a link down below so that people know about that place. The place still operates?
Yeah, Galloping Ghost. It's in Brookfield. It's in the suburb. They got, what's their game list right now? Let me check. They've got about 450 games on the floor right now.
Dang.
On the floor.
Started out as a game for
I'm gonna go to
Yeah.
Chicago for a bit.
They've got all the Mortal Kombat's, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, 4, and they got a prototype board for Mortal Kombat 2011. They've got
Wow.
so
That's pretty awesome. Do they have pinballs there and stuff too?
they've got a few pinballs, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it's $15 to get in. The games are set for free play, and if you get there at 11, you can go in and out as many times as you can with a day with your receipt, and they close at 2 o'clock in the morning. So
Wow.
Do they have beer?
no,
I would make it right there.
there is a Chinese restaurant next door. So
That you can leave and come back, which is great.
So if
I'm in
you're
Chicago. I'm gonna come visit you. You're gonna take me.
If you're hankering
Sure.
for a cat on rice, then you're all set.
Let's edit that one out.
Why?
boy,
That's like a running joke, right? Like the
Yeah,
Chinese
we
food is
hate it.
really
Early
like
into our
cats from the alley, right?
I guess.
I've never eaten cat. I don't know.
Well, I have an interesting, short, interesting story about that. There's this one place I used to work. We had an intern one time, and we're in a Chinese restaurant, and he's going through the menu, and he's like, "Okay, General Tso's chicken. So, like, does that come with chicken?" And the guy, like, that's working there just kind of, like, looks at him and goes, "No, it come with the cat. What? Why do you think we call General Tso's chicken?" And so, like, we all just died, like, laughing, right? His face is, like, beet red, and we're like, dude, you just got pwned by the China house worker.
boy.
So if they can make jokes about their food having cat, in it, I think it's pretty okay. Right? They take it in stride.
All right. It's time to start wrapping up.
Yeah. So I don't have a surprise game today in terms of we did a Cat Mario playthrough last time, and
But we got in trouble, I guess.
We got tagged, definitely. They haven't taken the episode down, but Cat Mario, the Flash game, actually uses the Mario Brothers 3 music that is composed by Nintendo. And so they flagged, they detected that we had Mario 3 in part of our video, and they tagged it. So now Nintendo gets to place advertisements on that particular episode. And from what I understand, it's not available anymore in certain countries, right?
That's what it said, but I don't know what countries can't see it.
Yeah, so I'm sure all -5% of our audience in that country is really concerned about it.
The one guy that can, I was like, I can't watch it anymore.
I know, right? But what I did want to mention, though, before we close out, because part of the whole deal, right, is us supposed to show you guys new spin on old stuff sometimes, which we've done a bit with the Retro Duo portable. But I want to actually show you guys really quick, not a playthrough, but on your iPhone, you can actually get, there's one pretty neat game, and then another game that I thought was going to be neat, and it turned out to be kind of lame. That cat game, you can actually get for the iPhone. It's like an actual app. But it's not the Cat Mario. It kind of looks like Cat Mario, but it's like full of like in-game advertising and everything. So you have to click through the in-game advertising. You click on free. And what it makes you do is, in order to play the game, one play, it forces you to watch an ad, in addition to the ones that it already spams you with as soon as you start the app. And then if you accept that, it actually goes into a game that's very similar to Mario. You can just see from like the title screen, it does have like the graphics are definitely better than the Flash version. The sounds are better as well. Gameplay is a bit tighter. This one is... I looked up Cat Mario, but if you look up Cat F, it'll come up. Cat F, all one word. But it's not. I'm specifically mentioning it just to warn people. If you're thinking it's Cat Mario on your iPhone, It's not. It's definitely inspired by. It's kind of like an homage to. But it's totally different games. It's more inspired by. But and they might have a pay version that's better. The free version is pretty much unplayable. A game that's really sweet though and super playable is there's actually Mega Man 2 for the iPhone.
Really?
If you look up Mega Man 2, it's Mega Man 2 Lite. You can download the demo and you play against Woodman, and you play all the way to the end of the first level and beat it and everything. The full game actually is like the full NES game. You can pick which robot you want to go to. You fight all the robots. You get all the way to Wily. It's the same original NES controls. That game I think is only $2. So if you want to get your Mega Man 2 groove on your iPhone, it's pretty darn cool. That's showing the title screen, and then if I actually start it,
That's Tyler.
you can actually see.
That's cool.
Yeah. So and then it.
Nice.
See if I can play it backwards. You want me to play it backwards?
Go for it.
It's actually doing pretty good. Oh.
I'm actually not doing bad. I deliberately have the music off because I don't want to get a copyright infringement thing from Capcom.
So is that like an official Capcom?
This is an official port. Yeah, this is a legit, no kidding. If you'll notice, I didn't. I kind of mentioned the Everdrives and everything, but I didn't really give them too much, fanfare. Mainly because I have my own opinions about ROMs and stuff that we can cover in another. We can cover another time. ROMs and emulation. I'm a fan of emulation, and I'm a fan of playing games in whatever format you can enjoy the game in. As an engineer whose life is built on people buying the products that I work on and support, I think if you really want to play and enjoy something, however you do it, I think you kind of owe it to the content creators to do it responsibly. So, and people can figure out what that means. Most of the Everdrives that I have, two things: Homebrew, and then I have backups of the games that I legit own. I own like 670 games. I can't take this and like 500 games with me everywhere I go. It's just not practical, right? So I definitely don't have anything against those tools. Plus, they're really great dev tools. If you want to make your own Homebrew, that's the way to do it, is to have something that you can plug into the actual system and see it. Because a lot of times you can build the Homebrew against an emulator and it works fine, and then you build a cart and you put it on the actual machine and it doesn't work at all. So, but it's my opinion. It's backed by, I think, the laws of the United States of America. But I don't judge anybody that chooses to go a different path. But I think it's really cool now that you can there's a lot of different forums and mediums for you to enjoy games on your time. You can enjoy them on your cell phone. You can enjoy them on the RDP. You can enjoy them on the original hardware. One last bit. I think I have it here. I did want to mention that I think it's often overlooked that you can play the original PlayStation games on your PSP if they're purchased through the PlayStation Store.
Really?
So if you want to play some of the old Tomb Raider games, you want to play Mortal Kombat Trilogy that was released for the PlayStation, which was pretty darn good. You can find a lot of those games, all the Final Fantasy games, in the same way you can buy the PS1 games and download them and play them on your PS3 or your Vita. Your trusty old PSP can play those too. So don't leave the PSP out of the equation. Plus, there's also a lot of Homebrew, and if you download ROMs and stuff, that'll work too. But I don't own that. So. All right, folks, this has been Retro Reload. This has been episode 7, and we hope that you found some great new ways to enjoy some old classics. And if you have some opinions, if there's stuff we didn't get right, if you do know where we can find cheap CDI controllers, that kind of thing.
Please.
If you want us to have an episode where we talk about ROMs and emulation in great detail, drop us a comment either here on the video or in VG Collect. We love that website. You'll hear about it just about every single episode. VGCollect.com. It lets you catalog your collection and your wish list and kind of keep things in order so you don't end up with 18 copies of Mega Man.
Or we also have that the Facebook page now.
We do. We have a Facebook.
Which we just started.
Today.
Excellent. So, folks, thank you, and we're signing out.
Thank you all for watching.
Have a good day, guys.